The big, the big answer, the big question: spiritual or religious? It's just not in America. It's everywhere. You can have religious entities and spiritual entities. Which one will you choose? Religious means rituals and traditions. Spiritual means more your own style of belief or faith. How can you do it? How can somebody walk around comfortable in their own skin? Has anybody ever thought of that? I know this podcast was called The Bad Guitarist, and I mean terrible. But now we're switching gears. We're going more for a worldwide audience. Talked to somebody last night on stereo that made me think I'd start this again. Except go after the world. We're surrounded by all this religious tradition that if you don't do it, you're looked down upon. You're looked down upon if you follow Sanguru, by the religious entities of the United States. So we're gonna try doing this. This may take more than one podcast. Why is it that kids get baptized as babies when they don't know what they're getting baptized into, like in the Catholic tradition? Why is there always a bar mitzvah? Even though Jewish people have a tendency to stick to their traditions even as they're young and they get older, they still keep going back to the synagogue. I seen that with my friend Josh, who took me to a bar mitzvah at a synagogue. Yeah, that's the question. And Josh was spiritual and religious. I believe for somebody to make it in this world, they got to have some sort of spiritual belief. By the way, that noise you hear, I'm doing laundry. Yeah, I talked to a woman last night on stereo who me and her shared the same thoughts about this deal with the CERN. It's supposed to be happening tomorrow or the 5th. I got my own little CERN thing going on Tuesday because I got to go pick up some stuff plus talk to my doctor. And I don't know how I'm going to do it because he wants me to do a call-in visit. Plus, I got to get back down to Clarendon to pick up some toilets that same day. So we're going to get philosophical here on this podcast from now on out. Maybe mix in some other stuff. Who knows? It's like I get tired of that saying religious people talk about hell, but spiritual people have already been there. Well, that could be true or that could be false. I think that's personal to you. It's I think it's bad whenever religious people or spiritual people try dictating how your life was whenever they don't know. So that that in itself, that one thing right there makes it look like sounds like spiritual people have been through more. But you can be spiritual and be part of a religious sect. That is true. Tonight I may go on stereo and see if we can. There's one girl named Amber. Me and her connected. So I know spiritual people don't look down on the drink thing there as much. A lot of the most spiritual people I've ever met were sober for like 20 years, or at least seven. 7 years is that magic touch. Either you make or break it. I had 7 years at one time, but now I'm doing something completely different with this semen retention thing called Brahmahara that people down in India do, and certain actors. But this topic is always brings out the best or worst in people because some people argue over it and just make complete fools out of themselves whenever people got to realize everybody's on their own journey. So why interfere with their journey? Their journey could be doing drugs for a while till they discover the spiritual or religious deal. Because there'll come a point where they have to stop, or they'll go till they're dead. So, or at least that's what people say. But I've known survivors of the drug disease. So I will say that there's a 75% chance that somebody will live through it. But there's always those non-survivors. I could always turn this into like a Jim Morrison read poetry or deal, which all thing he was doing was just discussing life in his poetry. That last, see, he practically invented. He was the one who invented podcast, recording all of his poetry and them giving it the mic without any music. That's one thing I like about the Catholic Church. No music there to drown it out. Drown out. Where it could be some churches using the music to hit the switches in people. That switch is whenever they wake up, they feel the ether or the Holy Spirit running through the room. But music has vibration. But I wonder if many churches research the 432 hertz thing. or the 440 hertz field. So, see, earlier in life, I went to the First Baptist Church and I don't have a clue what they said. I was more or less a body in there. You know. So yeah, it's like a, but see, that comes back down to that age thing. So if I wasn't comprehending whenever I was 16 and 17 years old, which was the time that I went to church the most until I got older, how could a baby get baptized unless they're just trying to bless the baby getting baptized and taking them through this ritual to see, to give them something? Because you know the baby doesn't retend that. You can't make a decision on their own. But that's a religious tradition. So why do parents do that? Peer pressure from the church? So this topic goes broad. It's a very broad topic. Some broad will probably wind up arguing with me over the deal. So which is better, religious or spiritual? People got to have a place to go as a safe haven. But why not make the safe haven your own home where you practice what you believe in your own privacy? It's between you and God that people say. When I was down and out, I saw so much stuff that couldn't. It's like that movie Revolver, Battle Against the Ego. So, what do you think? What do you think's going to do it? Social media sure does play a weird role in this. People pushing both sides, spiritual and religious, to the point on some people you don't know what to believe. If I'm judging them hard, don't believe that they really practice it. But most of the time, spiritual people have these practices that's just between them and God in their own privacy. You know, people say it comes down between you and God at the end. I mean, Mike Tyson is spiritual as hell, but he also practices a religion. Look at that. In his early days, like all of us, he had an animal instinct. As his animal instinct was turned up a little bit higher, he was willing to do a little bit more. That's all death row is, anyways. People willing to go that far. to take care of a situation. So what is it? Spiritual religions. This is going to get deep because every time I hear something, put enough content around it, maybe stretch it into it in a couple hours. Have you ever noticed that churches, though, there can be some pushy people directly ordering you to follow their ways? At the same time, they'll act like the Pharisees and judge if you don't follow their ways to the T. Explain that one. How could that be? So yeah, it's like the world is made up of propaganda, even within the churches. People trying to push stuff because they got it pushed on them. The propaganda machine has been used in everywhere, in every sect of life. So what is it? I'm gonna cut it off there. Spiritual, religious. We'll probably come back to this.